Hi, I'm Odessa.
9 hours. That's how long I drove through a blizzard, windshield wipers squeaking against frozen glass, headlights barely cutting through the storm. And in my lap the entire time, balancing like it was breakable treasure, was a strawberry champagne cake. Vina's favorite. 3 tiers, lemon sponge, sugared violets on top. I'd ordered it weeks ago, not just for the taste, but for what it meant, for what I hoped it could fix. I held on to it like it was a fragile symbol of hope, because through the numb fingers, the bone-deep cold, and the hours of fighting the road, one thought kept me going. This is worth it. She's worth it. I was wrong. The second I walked through the doors, everything stopped, like I was the snowstorm personified. Smiles froze. Conversations sputtered. Laughter died on lips. The valet should have warned me, honestly. When I handed him my keys, he gave me a once-over and asked, "Are you catering?" I smiled through it. "No, I'm family." Inside, the scent of vanilla and roses wrapped around me like a pretty, choking perfume. I stepped carefully, the cake balanced in my arms like a peace offering. But the cold inside wasn't from the snow. It was the kind that settled in your ribs, the kind that whispers, "You shouldn't be here." And then I saw her. Vina, my little sister, the bride-to-be, in a silk blush gown, surrounded by people who looked like they belonged in a lifestyle magazine. Her laughter was effortless, like champagne bubbling over, until she saw me.
Her smile faltered, then vanished altogether.
"You actually came?" she said, flat. "I drove all day," I said, trying to smile. "Surprise." She didn't even glance at the cake. No hug, not even a step forward. "I didn't think you'd, make it in this weather." "I did. You're getting engaged. I wouldn't miss it." But just behind her, one of the bridesmaids leaned in, pretending to whisper. She wasn't on the list, was she? My face didn't move, but my insides did. Vina's didn't. Her expression didn't change. Cold, composed. And then, just like that, she walked away.
"No welcome, no thanks."
I stood alone, invisible among the crowd. People flowed around me like I was a misplaced coat rack. I found Mom near the fireplace, draped in pearls and navy satin. She air-kissed the space next to my cheek. "Just don't make this about you, okay? Tonight is for Vina." "Of course," I muttered. Her eyes dropped to the damp hem of my coat. Her lips tightened like I'd brought dirt in with me. Even Vina's fiancé passed by with a nod so faint it could have been mistaken for a draft. I walked through the house like a ghost. Engagement photos lined the walls, Vina's perfect smile beaming back. Not a single one included me. Near the dessert table, I caught pieces of a conversation. "Every family's got a drama magnet. Maybe she thinks this is her rehearsal dinner." They didn't bother to whisper. I slipped into the coat room and placed the cake gently on a side table labeled "Bridal Party Gifts." 10 glittering boxes. Handwritten notes. My name wasn't on any of them. I sat on a bench nearby, arms wrapped around myself. My phone buzzed. A group chat. Vina's bridal party. I wasn't supposed to be on it. Maybe someone added me by accident. Maybe it was the universe. One message stood out, from Vina's number. "She doesn't fit the look. We'll say the list was full." The words hit like hail. I stopped breathing. I stepped outside, let the cold slam into me, let it chase the heat of humiliation off my skin. I stared down at the snow, trying to believe I'd misunderstood. But I hadn't. This wasn't an accident. It was a plan. I don't know how long I stood there, the box still in the coat room, untouched. Then I heard it. Her voice, around the corner, laughing. I edged closer, heart thudding. "I can't believe she actually drove here," said Blay, her bridesmaid. 9 hours in a blizzard," Vina replied. "For what? A pity cupcake?" Then laughter. Cruel. Comfortable. "She could have crashed," BL giggled. Imagine the sympathy. And the silence. More laughter. I didn't flinch. Didn't cry. I turned, slow and numb, and walked down a hall until I found a restroom stall. And that's where it broke. Silent tears. Hot and endless. Like water leaking through a crack that had been patched too many times. No sobbing, no sound. Just grief. When I stood up again, my reflection was unfamiliar. Eyes swollen, breath shaky, but something had settled behind them. Something cold, something clear. I took a wrong turn on the way back and ended up in a service hall. That's when I saw it. The cake, still in its box, untouched. 3 tiers of effort and love and memory, forgotten like I'd never been there. A server spotted me, "Ma'am, guests aren't allowed back here." "I'm just leaving," I said. And I was. I walked out into the snow, no destination in mind. No tears left, just quiet. I drove. Not home. Just away. Eventually, I stopped at a roadside motel. Flickering sign. Cheap buzz of vending machines. The kind of place where no one asks your name. I paid in cash. Room 107. The room smelled like bleach and old regrets. I didn't bother changing. I just sat on the edge of the bed in my coat.
Didn't turn on the TV. Didn't touch my phone.
I could still hear them, their laughter. Vina's voice. That one sentence echoing louder than the storm ever did. Honestly, I could have used the silence. I powered off my phone. And for the first time in years, the silence felt like mine. The next morning, light crept through the motel curtains like it was trying not to wake me. I stirred slowly, every muscle aching from the night before. My coat was still wrapped around me. The motel comforter kicked halfway to the floor. The air reeked of old cigarettes and something bitter I couldn't name. I reached for my phone. For a second, I just stared at it, still powered off, still untouched, still holding everything I wasn't ready to face. Eventually, I turned it on. 14 missed calls. None from Vina. None from Mom. But the notifications came rolling in. Texts from people who didn't see me at the party and wanted to know why. Not to check if I was okay, just to ask what had happened, to confirm the gossip. "You embarrassed Vina. Why would you leave the cake and vanish? You always make things about you." Not one message asked, "Are you safe?" I read each text like an archaeologist sifting through ruins, not with curiosity, but with a quiet kind of mourning. Then came the one that made my breath catch. From my mom, in the family group chat. "She's been emotionally unstable lately. Just give her space." And there it was, the new version of the story. Not that I was excluded. Not that I overheard things no sister should. Not that I brought a cake through a storm only to be erased. Now I was the unstable one. The disruption. The villain. Later that morning, I gave in to impulse and checked Vina's Instagram. I shouldn't have, but I did. There she was, glowing, posed in her blush gown, framed by smiling bridesmaids draped in matching faux fur shawls. The caption read, "A perfect night with all the people I love. #blessed, #engaged life." No mention of me. No tag. No acknowledgement. Not even a pretend nod in my direction. I stared at the post, watching likes stack up like a wall between us. Then another notification buzzed. A DM from an old college friend. "Hey, weren't you supposed to be there? Vina said you couldn't make it. Everything okay?" I didn't respond. What would I even say? That's when it hit me. The story was already being rewritten. I wasn't just being excluded. I was being erased. I sat on the motel bed and tilted my head back, eyes on the water-stained ceiling tiles. My memory unraveled like film from a spool. Graduation. No family photo. My first apartment. No housewarming gift. Last birthday. A generic card with no note inside. This wasn't new. It was just finally visible, like dust that only shows in a slant of sunlight. I packed slowly. Not because I had anywhere to be, but because something in me needed to leave that room clean, like I had never existed in it either. Before I left town, I drove past the estate one last time. The snow had been shoveled. The house looked warm, lit, perfect. Through the side kitchen window, I saw it. The silver cake box, still sealed, still sitting where I left it, untouched. I pulled out my phone and snapped a photo through the glass. Not to post, not for revenge. Just proof. Because one day, someone might ask, was it really that bad? And now I could say, yes, and here's what you didn't see. Back in the car, I checked my voicemail. One new message. From Vina. Her voice was low, careful. "Look, we need to talk, but not in front of people. You took things way too personally." I didn't delete it. I let it sit there like a fossil in amber. A monument to everything she couldn't say to my face. I didn't call her back. But for the first time in years, I smiled. Because I wasn't going to explain myself anymore. Let them talk. Let them twist it. They'd written their version. Now it was my turn. The next morning, I woke to sunshine pooling on the kitchen table. I sat in my tiny apartment, wearing leggings and an old sleep shirt, coffee gone cold beside me. My phone buzzed again. Vina's name lit up the screen. I stared at it for a moment, then answered. Her face filled the screen. Flawless. Mascara in place. Curls still perfect. "You picked the weirdest time to ghost," she said, her tone light, like this was just a misunderstanding. "People are asking questions." I didn't say anything. She leaned closer to the camera. You always overreact. You take things too personally. That weekend wasn't about you. Still, I stayed silent. Silence makes people squirm. I didn't mean for you to hear anything, she continued. You know how I get when I'm nervous. I say dumb things. Blee was just being funny. You took it out of context. She waited. For my forgiveness. For my guilt. I gave her neither. I nearly died getting there, Vina, I said finally. She blinked. I drove through a blizzard. With a handmade cake I ordered weeks in advance. I was soaked, frozen, and exhausted. And you laughed about how peaceful the night would have been if I hadn't shown up. That's not fair. No, I said. What's not fair is being erased. No seat, no photos, not even a nod. You treated me like a threat, like a mistake. You're making this a whole thing, she snapped. I'm not the villain. Then stop acting like one. Her eyes narrowed. You're trying to ruin my moment. I stayed calm. I'm not trying to do anything. I'm just done pretending your version is the truth. She started talking faster, defensive now, trying to dominate the space. I didn't interrupt. I just muted her. And for 30 seconds, I watched her talk at me, her mouth moving, hands gesturing wildly. She didn't even notice the silence. And when she paused, confused by my stillness, I unmuted, just to say one thing. I don't owe you anything. Then I ended the call. No yelling, no slamming. Just one clean click. Let her feel what it's like to speak into silence. Afterward, I sat in the quiet of my kitchen, letting it settle around me like warmth, like armor. Then I opened my laptop. I pulled up the invoice for the cake, attached it to an email. Subject line, receipt, cake, Vina's engagement. In the body of the email, I wrote one sentence. Attached is the receipt for the cake I paid for, the one that got left behind. I sent it to Vina. And Mom, and Aunt Delea. Minutes later, Mom replied. 4 words. This isn't helping, Odessa. That was it. Not, I'm sorry. Not, are you okay? Just another message telling me I was being too much. I wasn't 15 anymore. I didn't shrink. I didn't apologize. I opened another email. This one from Mom again. Subject line, enough. Inside was what she really thought. You've embarrassed the family enough. You're lucky you were even invited. Don't ruin Vina's future out of jealousy. Below her message, a screenshot. A private group chat. Title, Family Core Planning Only. I wasn't in it, obviously. But the messages were about me. Vina. She's not well. You know she always twists things. Just wait. She'll spin this into some sob story. Mom. Blee. We tried to include her. She's just dramatic. It didn't sting the way I thought it would. Because for once I wasn't surprised. They weren't reacting. They were prepared. They'd rehearsed this script. And when I didn't give them the meltdown they expected, they invented one anyway. I leaned back in my chair, letting the words settle. Not to hurt me, but to remind me. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't overreacting. I wasn't unstable. I was being erased. Around noon, a Slack notification popped up on my work laptop. Just a quick ping. A coworker I barely talked to. Hey, just FYI. Someone shared a screenshot of a vague IG post about a meltdown sister at an upstate engagement party. Is that you? My stomach turned. I opened Instagram again, hands cold even though the room was warm. There it was. Vina's latest post, her laughing, champagne in hand, her ring catching the light. A pastel-filtered photo that screamed effortless joy. The caption, sometimes jealousy wears a familiar face, but real love shines through. No tag, no name, but she didn't need to. Anyone who knew us knew exactly who she meant. And just when I thought the air couldn't get thinner, I saw it. A repost from a local wedding gossip blog. Anonymous tip. A bridesmaid from a recent upstate celebration says a family member arrived uninvited, caused a scene, and disappeared mid-party. Sad, really, she writes. No names again. But the outline was mine. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't even feel anger. Not immediately. I opened a folder on my desktop. One I had labeled Truth. Inside it, a photo of my frost-covered windshield at the start of the drive. The receipt for the cake. A video I'd taken the morning after. The cake box still sitting on the kitchen counter, untouched. Screenshots of the group chat I was never meant to see. And now, this new post, captioned lies wrapped in pretty filters. I picked 3 images. The cake in the soft kitchen light. My frozen windshield. A selfie I'd taken outside the venue. Red cheeks, wind-blown hair, holding the cake box. Then I posted them. No long caption, no essay. Just this. Sometimes you show up for people who wouldn't even shovel your name off the sidewalk, but that's how you learn. Some things you do out of love. Some things teach you who deserves it. I turned off comments after 2 hours, right after the likes and messages started rolling in. Some were kind, some confused. Some asked for the full story, but I wasn't ready to tell it. Not yet. Later that night, I opened Gmail again. Attached the PDF of the group chat and the Instagram post. Sent it to the PR department of the company where Vina's fiancé worked. No commentary, no explanation. Just the evidence. Not revenge. Just consequences. Let him see what the foundation really looked like before he tried to build a future on it. As I sat by the window, snow tapping gently against the glass again, my phone buzzed. A text. From Blo. You didn't hear this from me, but Vina's fiancé just postponed the engagement dinner with his parents, said something came up. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. I curled up under my favorite blanket, lit a candle, and let the stillness settle. For once, I didn't feel like the storm. I felt like the sky after. Saturday morning came in with sunshine, like it was trying to apologize for the week. I got dressed slowly. Family brunch at Aunt Ray's was still happening. The one scheduled before the engagement party had even been planned. And I was going. Not to prove a point. Not to make a scene. Just because I deserved to be there. When I walked in, Aunt Ray greeted me with a quiet smile and a hand on my shoulder. Don't let them make you small, she whispered. Inside, everything looked curated. White tablecloths, sliced fruit on matching platters, napkins folded like origami swans, every smile a little too wide. The smell of maple syrup couldn't hide the tension in the room. I sat near the window, out of direct view, just watching. Vina stood near the buffet, glass of champagne in hand. She tapped the rim with her manicured finger. I just want to say, she began, her voice smooth and sweet, this week reminded me how beautiful it is when family chooses love over ego. There it was, the dig, wrapped in a bow. Some people chuckled politely. Some glanced my way. I sipped my orange juice. I'd heard enough passive-aggressive performances to know when an insult was wearing pearls and perfume. So I stood, calm, deliberate. Mind if I say something too, I asked. The room quieted like someone had turned the volume dial down to 0. Forks froze midair. Eyes snapped toward me. Even Aunt Ray stopped chewing. I walked slowly to the center of the room. My sister's right, I began. Family should choose love over ego. My voice didn't shake. I drove 9 hours in a blizzard. With a cake I ordered 3 weeks in advance. It sat untouched in the kitchen, while people who claimed to love me laughed about how peaceful things would be if I never made it. Blee choked on her mimosa. Mom paled. Vina opened her mouth. Odessa, that was taken out of context. I raised my hand, not to silence her, just to hold the moment. I heard you, I said, through the kitchen door, you and Blo. I pulled out my phone, unlocked it, and hit play. Vina's voice spilled into the room like spilled wine. 9 hours for what, a pity cupcake? Then Blo. What if she crashed? Imagine the sympathy, and the silence. Gasps. A fork clinked against a plate. I paused the audio and looked around the room. That's the context. Vina's fiancé looked like he'd just swallowed a stone. Mom reached for her wine, her hand trembling. No one spoke. They couldn't. Vina tried again. You don't get to twist this. I stepped back, slipping my phone into my pocket. You twisted it when you decided that mocking me was easier than being honest. She snapped, You're jealous. You always have been. I met her eyes steady. You needed a villain so badly you forgot how much it cost to create one. The silence after wasn't awkward. It was clean. Honest. Real. I didn't stay for dessert. As I slipped my coat on and stepped toward the door, Aunt Ray walked with me. She leaned in close and whispered, You didn't just clear your name. You burned the whole script. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Because this time, I wasn't walking away in shame. I was walking away free. The silence they left behind followed me home. But it wasn't the heavy, suffocating kind anymore. It didn't feel like shame or abandonment. It felt earned. Vina's voice still echoed faintly in my mind, sharp, brittle, desperate. But it didn't haunt me, not this time. I didn't sleep much that night, not because I was anxious, but because something in me had finally stilled, settled. When you walk through a storm that brutal and still come out standing, it's not the wind you remember. It's the stillness after. The next morning, 3 notifications greeted me before I'd even finished brushing my teeth. The first was a message from Monica, our childhood neighbor. Did you hear? Engagement dinner's off. His parents asked for a pause. That's their word, not mine. I just stared at the screen, unsure how I felt. I hadn't expected it to unravel this fast. The second was a vague Facebook post from Aunt Ray. Truth burns at first, but it sets you free, if you're ready. No names, no tags. But anyone who needed to know would understand. The third was a photo, shared to the family group chat by a cousin I barely spoke to. It was of me, standing at brunch, one hand raised mid-sentence, my phone in the other. The caption, unhinged, attention-seeking, just like always. I didn't reply, didn't explain. The girl who used to shrink at that kind of comment, the one who would apologize, make jokes, try to smooth it over, she wasn't here anymore. Instead, I poured myself a cup of coffee, sat at my kitchen table, let the sun fall across the tile floor in golden slices. On the shelf across from me sat a box of old journals. I hadn't opened them in years. I pulled the top one down and flipped through pages covered in scribbles and ink smears, teenage heartbreak, and trying too hard poems. And then I found it. One line, written when I was maybe 14. Maybe if I'm quieter, they'll love me louder. I stared at those words like I was reading someone else's pain. Then I tore the page out, lit a match over the sink, watched it burn. That girl, the one who wrote that, she didn't live here anymore. The rest of that Sunday moved like a deep breath, slow, unrushed. I stayed inside, curled on the couch, the scent of burned paper still faint in the kitchen. Outside, the sidewalk shimmered with puddles, the snow, finally, mercifully melted. Around sunset, my phone buzzed. A message from him, Vina's fiancé, or maybe ex-fiancé now. I'm sorry, you didn't deserve that. I heard everything. I didn't speak up, and I regret it. I read it twice, not because I needed the apology, but because it was honest. No excuses. Just acknowledgement. And somehow, that hit harder than anything else. An hour later, another buzz. Bleh. I'm not proud of who I was that night. No further explanation. No softening. Just that. And strangely, it cracked something open. Because it wasn't cruelty. It was confession. That night, I opened my laptop again. The post I'd saved, but hadn't had the nerve to share yet, still sat in my drafts folder. I read it again, slowly. Sometimes it takes a blizzard to see clearly. This is for anyone who's ever been made to feel like they were too much, just for existing. I didn't hit post. Not yet. But I saved it again. Because my voice didn't need to be loud. It just needed room to breathe. Right as I was about to close the laptop, my phone buzzed again. A single message. From Vina.
But please.
I stared at it for a long time. But this time my hands didn't shake. My chest didn't tighten. I didn't smile. Because I had finally learned the difference between missing someone and missing who I wish they could be. I placed the phone face down on the table, walked to the window. Snow had started falling again. Soft, slow flakes drifting like they had nowhere to be. And for the first time in forever, it wasn't falling on me. I was the storm. And the clearing sky. A full week passed before I dialed her number. I didn't rehearse what I'd say. I didn't plan a speech. I just called. When she answered, her voice was thin, almost small. You just left me, she whispered. You disappeared, Odessa, after everything. I leaned into the couch cushion, the same one I'd collapsed on that night, cakeless and cracked open. And I said the one thing I'd needed her to hear for over 2 decades. And that's how I've felt since I was 9. No venom, no bite. Just truth. She didn't push back. Didn't argue. Didn't spin it. Not this time. I messed up, she said, voice trembling. I was cruel. I didn't want you to come because I knew people would compare us again, and I hated how that made me feel. I didn't rush to comfort her. Didn't reach for a bridge I hadn't agreed to build. Then I said, you should have told me. I know. There was a pause. Then I added, I still would have sent the cake. I just wouldn't have driven through a blizzard to deliver it myself. Another long silence. Then she said so quietly I almost missed it. I started therapy this week. My eyes fluttered shut. Part disbelief. Part hope. Part relief. Good, I said. That's the most human thing I've heard you say in years. She gave a laugh that didn't quite land. My fiancé hasn't spoken to me since the brunch, she admitted. He said he needs time to figure things out. I didn't gloat. Didn't say I told you so. I just replied gently, maybe he's learning what I did. That silence can be louder than screaming. She started crying. Real tears this time. Not performative. Not manipulative. Just human. I didn't rush to stop her. But I didn't hang up either. I don't hate you, I said quietly. But I can't go back to how things were. I'm done playing the background. She didn't argue. Didn't beg. She just stayed there on the line, breathing across the distance. And eventually we both hung up. No dramatic goodbye. Just done. Later that night, I opened my laptop again. Opened the post. Read it one last time. Then hit post. To the quiet one at the table, you are not invisible. You don't need their permission to speak. Sometimes your story begins where their lies end. The notifications came quickly. Messages from classmates, coworkers, cousins I hadn't heard from in years. Some said thank you. Some said me too. Some just left a heart. I didn't reply to most of them. I didn't have to. Because for the first time in a long, long time, I wasn't looking for permission to be heard. I had already spoken. The next morning, I woke with a strange lightness in my chest. No ache, no dread, just breath. I threw on a coat and walked 2 blocks to the little corner bakery where I'd placed the order for Vina's engagement cake. The bell above the door jingled softly as I stepped inside. This time, I didn't order anything extravagant. Just something simple. White frosting, a dusting of gold. No names, no occasion. Just peace. Back at home, I sat at the kitchen table, lit a single candle, and sliced the first piece for myself. No toast, no audience. Just me, and the quiet sweetness of healing. Outside, the snow was gone. Puddles shimmered on the sidewalk, reflecting a sky so painfully clear it looked like forgiveness. Not every ending needs fireworks. Some just need a fork, a bite, and silence. That evening, my phone buzzed again. A direct message from someone I hadn't spoken to in years. Hey, I read your post. I showed up to my sister's wedding and they put me at the overflow table. Behind a column, no chair. I left before the salad came out. I thought I was the only one. I stared at the message, blinking hard. Then I typed back. You weren't. You aren't. Sometimes being treated like you're invisible is what it takes to finally see yourself clearly. A heart emoji came in return. That was enough. That night, I scrolled through the comments left under my post. Dozens, no, hundreds of people sharing their stories. One woman wrote, "My family threw a birthday dinner for my brother the night I got laid off. I sat there smiling while they toasted him. No one asked how I was." Another, "I got married at the courthouse, alone, because my parents forgot to ask about the date." And this one, "They said I was dramatic, emotional, too sensitive. I believed them for years, until I realized I was just feeling things no one else wanted to deal with." Every story was different, but the thread was the same. The moment someone realized they weren't just overlooked, they were actively erased. And still, the messages kept coming. A few nights later, while brushing my teeth, my phone buzzed. A text from Vina. "I saw your post. I get it now. I don't know how to fix it, but I want to." I stared at it, foam still in my mouth, toothbrush midair. I didn't reply. Not because I was angry, but because I wasn't ready. And that was okay. This time the healing would happen on my terms. Not hers, not theirs, mine. Weeks passed. The snow gave way to gray sidewalks and tiny green buds. Trees blinked awake. The wind softened. I stopped checking the family group chat. Stopped wondering if every vague Instagram caption was about me. Stopped scanning old texts, looking for validation like a detective chasing ghosts. Instead, I spent more time in bookstores, at coffee shops, in silence. It wasn't lonely anymore. It was full of possibility, space, breath. Then, one morning, I got an email from the bakery, the same one from before. "Reminder, your special order was never picked up. We're holding the credit on file. Would you like to use it?" I smiled at the irony. Yes, I thought, but not for someone else this time. So I walked back. The same little bell rang when I opened the door. The same woman behind the counter smiled, remembering me. "What can I get you today?" she asked. "I want something simple," I said. "Not for a party, not for a post, just a quiet celebration." She nodded like she understood. That afternoon, I carried the box home with no audience, no hidden message. Just me and peace. I opened it at the kitchen table, peeled back the lid. Vanilla sponge, buttercream, a shimmer of edible gold. I sliced the first piece. Ate slowly. Not because I needed to mark a milestone, but because I'd finally learned how to honor myself without asking permission. Later that evening, another DM landed in my inbox. From someone I'd forgotten even followed me. "I read your post. I thought I was over it, but I'm not, and maybe I don't need to be. Not yet." That message sat in my chest like warm tea on a cold night. I typed back, "It's okay not to be over it. Healing isn't a deadline. It's a door you walk through at your own pace." She sent a single reply. "Anentio." The rest of the night passed quietly, and then something happened that surprised me. Vina sent another text, but this time it wasn't a plea. It wasn't a defense. It was a photo, a wedding dress. Simple, ivory, elegant, taken in a softly lit fitting room. No filters, no caption. Just the image. Still haven't picked a date, she wrote, but I thought you might want to see. I didn't know what to feel, so I let myself feel nothing, and replied, "It looks like you. That's a compliment." She sent back a single heart emoji. That was it, and for the first time, I didn't spiral afterward. Didn't reread the message 10 times. Didn't twist it into something more or less than it was. I wasn't waiting for a redemption arc. I wasn't hoping for a rewrite of our childhood, because I was already writing something new. On the anniversary of the drive, the night I showed up uninvited, cake on my lap, heart in pieces, I found myself walking again. Same boots, same block, same little bakery with its familiar bell above the door. But this time I didn't go inside. I stood on the sidewalk, hands in my coat pockets, watching a father and daughter inside. She was spinning in slow circles, pink box clutched in his hand, her laughter fogging the glass. Life had moved on. Not away from me, just around me. And I was okay with that. Sometimes life doesn't give you closure with a bow. Sometimes you just learn to close the door yourself. That night, I wrote another post. Not for likes, not for anyone else. Just because it needed to be said. To the ones reading this, who've been laughed at behind closed doors, who've heard your name turned into a joke, who've shown up only to be made to feel like a disruption. You're not. You are not too loud. You are not too much. You are not invisible. Your loyalty is not a flaw. Your voice is not a weapon. Your light is not something to be dimmed so others can shine. If they couldn't hold it, that's not your fault. That's their loss. So light your candle, slice your cake, eat it with both hands if you want. You don't owe them silence. You never did. I didn't reread it. I just hit post, then turned off my phone. The next morning, I woke up to messages flooding in. Hundreds of them. People from high school, college, coworkers, followers I'd never met. Even a couple of extended relatives I hadn't spoken to in years. Some apologized. Some just said, thank you. Some said, I finally understand what happened. But one stood out. My cousin Leanne. Just a few days ago, she'd called me dramatic, said I made everything about me. This time her message was quieter. I didn't know. I thought you were just distant. I didn't know you were being pushed away. It didn't erase anything, but it made the air feel easier to breathe. 2 days later, Vina reached out again, but not with a message, with a delivery. A small package showed up at my door. No card, no sender's name. Inside, a leather-bound journal, unmarked, clean pages. Taped to the front was a sticky note in Vina's handwriting. For the version of you they never let you be. I sat on the floor with it in my lap for a long time. I didn't cry. I didn't write in it. Not yet. But I held it like something sacred. Because for the first time, I felt like she was trying to see me. Not edit me, not fix me, just see me. By Friday, even the wedding gossip blog had posted an update. The same one that had spread the story of the meltdown sister. This time the tone had changed. Update. Unnamed family drama at an upstate engagement party may have been exaggerated. Sources confirm the sister in question did not cause a scene, but left quietly after being excluded. No apology. Just a quiet walk back. Like snow melting under the sun, trying to erase its own tracks. I didn't care. The truth had already done its work. And the truth, I'd learned, didn't need to shout. It just needed to be heard. That weekend, I went to Aunt Ray's again. She greeted me at the door with a smile that reached her eyes this time, poured us both coffee into mismatched mugs, sat across from me in the warmth of her sunlit kitchen. No one likes the one who tells the truth, she said, stirring slowly. But they'll remember you were the only one who did. I looked around the room. No tension, no performance, just presence. It was the most peace I'd felt in weeks. Do you think she'll change? I asked finally. Aunt Ray sipped her coffee, thought for a long time. People don't change when they're cornered, she said. They change when they're ready, and that takes time. I nodded. She didn't have to explain. Later that day, as I was leaving, she handed me something. A photo, faded, slightly curled. Me and Vina. 7 and 9, sitting on the front steps of our childhood home in matching Halloween costumes, sharing a flashlight between us, grinning like the world was ours. I took it home and placed it on my shelf. Not out of nostalgia, but as a reminder that we were kids once, before all of this. Before roles got assigned and scripts were passed around and love became something you had to earn.
That was then.
This was now. And I wasn't asking to be let back in. I was building something new. On Monday morning, one final email arrived. From Vena. Subject line: "You don't have to answer this." Inside, she wrote, "I know I can't take back what I said, or what I didn't say. I know an apology won't undo the years of pretending you didn't matter. I didn't erase you because I didn't love you. I erased you because I thought love was a competition, and I didn't think I could win with you standing next to me. That's not an excuse. It's a failure. Mine." I read it 3 times, then closed the tab. I didn't respond. Not out of spite, but because some truths don't need immediate answers. Some truths just need time to land, to live, to take up space. That evening, I pulled the journal from the box, turned to the first page, wrote, "I was never too much. They were just too committed to making me small." I let the ink dry, closed the cover, and finally breathed. Weeks passed. The city slowly shifted into spring. The last of the snow melted into gutters and puddles. Bare branches sprouted tiny green promises. The sidewalks cleared, both physically and emotionally. I stopped checking my phone every hour. Stopped waiting for family group chat messages I didn't miss. Stopped hoping Vienna would post something that made it all feel like it meant something more. Because I wasn't looking for meaning in her anymore. I was writing something new. And in that quiet, something unexpected bloomed. Peace. One morning, I got another email from the bakery. The same one. "Reminder, your special order was never picked up. We're still holding the credit. Would you like to use it?" This time, I didn't hesitate. I walked back through that door, let the warm scent of sugar and vanilla wrap around me. "I want something simple," I told the woman behind the counter. "Not for a party, not for a picture, just something soft." She smiled and nodded. She didn't ask questions. That afternoon, I carried the box home, quiet, light. No label, no purpose but my own. At my kitchen table, I peeled off the lid. Vanilla cake, buttercream, a hint of gold. No banner, no name, just a small, quiet sweetness. I sliced the first piece and ate it slowly, letting it melt on my tongue. Not for anyone else. Not to prove anything. Just because I wanted something beautiful for myself. Later that evening, another DM landed in my inbox. Someone I didn't know. A stranger. "Jim. Hey, I read your post. I showed up to my brother's graduation party, and they didn't save me a seat. Said it was an oversight. It wasn't. I stood for 2 hours before I left. I thought I was the only one." I stared at the message for a long time, then typed, "You weren't. You aren't. We all think we're the only one until someone else says, 'Same.'" She replied with a heart emoji. That was enough. That night, I let myself scroll through the old posts again, the ones I hadn't answered, the stories people had shared with me, strangers pouring their hurt into comment sections and inboxes, birthday parties no one clapped at, weddings where names were left off seating charts by accident, baby showers with no gifts from family. So many small heartbreaks that never got acknowledged. Every story had the same heartbeat. I wasn't forgotten. I was erased. A few nights later, while brushing my teeth, my phone buzzed again. A text. From Vena. "I saw your post. I get it now. I don't know how to fix it, but I want to." I stood there, foam in my mouth, staring at those words. I didn't respond. Not because I didn't care, but because I was learning to let things arrive and not immediately rush to carry them. This time, healing would move at my pace. Months passed. Vena and I exchanged a few more messages, small ones, not filled with apology or drama. Just honesty. She didn't try to win me back. I didn't try to pretend. We weren't close. Not really. But we were real. And that, for now, was enough. One day, she sent a photo. A wedding dress. Not glamorous, not dramatic. Just simple, soft ivory, hanging quietly in a fitting room. "Still haven't picked a date," she wrote. "But I thought you might want to see." I didn't know how to feel, so I let the feeling remain unnamed. Then I replied, "It looks like you. That's a compliment." She sent a heart emoji. That was it. And I didn't sit there afterward dissecting the message. Didn't reread it. Didn't ache. Because I wasn't living in the past anymore. I was writing a life in the present. One that didn't require permission. On the 1-year anniversary of that storm, I walked past the bakery again. I didn't go inside. I just stood outside the window, watched a little girl twirl in her coat while her dad held a pink cake box in one hand. Laughed too loud, fell into his arms, and I smiled. Not because I wanted what they had, but because I knew what I had now, myself. I was whole, unapologetically present, uninvited no more. To anyone reading this, whether you've been excluded, mocked, diminished, or told your voice was too much for the room, let me say this clearly. That you belong. You are not too loud. You are not too sensitive. You are not the problem. Sometimes the room is just too small for someone who refuses to shrink, and that's not your fault. That's their loss. So light your candle. Slice your cake. Eat it with joy. Take up space. Tell your story, not to get their approval, but because your story matters. You matter. And if you've ever had to walk away from people you once called family just to hear your own voice again, drop your story in the comments. We're listening. And if this resonated with you, like, subscribe, turn on notifications. Because this space, it's for voices like yours. Voices like mine. Voices they tried to erase, but couldn't. Because the truth, it doesn't disappear. It just waits for the right moment to be heard. And this was mine.